Welcome to the fourth class in AMC3 Masterclass 3. Today we are going to be getting our entire website set up to the point where we can begin construction. Now, to begin with, you're going to need to get a domain picked out for your site, and you also need to get WordPress installed on that domain name. Now, these two particular topics are topics that I have covered in previous classes before. So I really did not want to end up spending an entire class going back over a lot of these repetitive training things that I have already covered before. So I wanted to point out to you where you can find this information in previous training classes, and then give you a couple of my recommended tips as far as applying that to this particular series that you're working on. So first of all, with your domain name selection, if you go to AMC3 Masterclass 1, you can find this under Training Courses, and then Class number 2, you can find domain name selection and registration training information there if you need that. And then also WordPress. The WordPress installation training is here in class number 4. So with that said, when you are considering what domain name to select for this website you are building, I personally would recommend to go for a branded domain name approach. This is where either your entire domain name or at least part of your domain name is not keyword based at all. It can be okay to have a mild reference to what your target keyword phrase is in your domain name as part of your branded domain. For example, the site that I have built is called LostDogs, LOSDOGS.com. Los is obviously from Los Angeles, and dogs obviously has to do with what the site is about. So this is a branded domain, but it still kind of consists of some vague keyword references there as well. So you can kind of do the same thing with yours. I would really recommend to keep your domain name as short as you possibly can. Try to keep it under 10, maybe 12 characters or something like that if it is feasible to do so. The shorter the better. In this case, will make it more memorable. Will make it something that others could maybe tell other people about a little easier. And you're not as dependent with this type of website on the whole exact match domain thing with having a primary keyword phrase for your entire website. You're really going to end up getting a lot more of your traffic on these sites through your supporting pages for your different places that you are covering in that particular city. So with that said, I'm going to proceed on to covering theme installation. And this is also going to consist of general setup of your WordPress site before we actually get into the whole theme aspect here. So I'm on the general settings page. This would be after you already get your domain and your WordPress set up and installed. Then go into the settings, go to the general page, And the main two things you want to worry about here is your site title and your tagline. I just set my site title as the name of my website, lostdogs.com. For the tagline, I make this more about keyword phrases. What is the primary niche and city market that I am trying to go after here? For my site, it is dog parks and beaches around Los Angeles, California. Next up, go to the discussion page. On this page, typically, I recommend for people to disable comments on their site. However, this is actually a site where I want to try to allow comments on it, because I should actually be able to get some real people that might drop by this website and leave a real comment. Maybe they'll even post a picture of their dog at this park and talk about what they like about it or what they dislike about it. So the main thing I want to worry about here is to make sure that these two checkboxes are checked, because I want to approve all the comments that come through this site. Now I want to go to the permalinks page. I've covered this in training classes before, but I simply wanted to mention it here to make sure to select the post name, because you want your page URLs to be referencing keywords that you're using in your post titles. So once you have these three settings pages covered, then we can move on to the theme installation. Now, WordPress themes is something that I have also covered before. I discuss Weaver 2 in both Azon Masterclass 1, Azon Masterclass 2, and also in a separate Weaver 2 theme mini-series. So this should be something that a lot of you are used to seeing already if you've gone through any of my previous training before. If not, you can take a look back through there if you do have any questions. But otherwise, simply click on Add New here and search for Weaver 2 and get that installed on your site. Once you have that installed, then go over here to Weaver 2 Admin. In Weaver 2 Admin, under this Weaver 2 subthemes page, you can select the subtheme that you want to start with. Go ahead and do this first before you proceed on with the different settings that I'm going to be walking you through here in just a minute. Because otherwise, when you go back and select this subtheme, you can end up clearing out those settings. Personally, I like to go with 2011 Lite. I find this to be easily customizable for a lot of different situations, and I also prefer the more white overall appearance. So once you have your subtheme selected, then we are going to go to the main options tab. Under this tab, go to General Appearance. And on this page, we want to make sure Rounded Corners is selected. Next up, go to the Layout tab. On this page, we want to look at these two drop-down boxes right here for Blog Post and Page Default and Archive-like Default. We want to set both of these to no sidebars, one column content. You can see right here I have both of them selected. The remaining of these are all set to use default. Then we are going to proceed to the Header tab. I wanted to point this out really quickly because there are a number of settings that I utilize in this tab. However, A lot of this is really going to end up applying a little later on down the road, because this is covering how this header area looks up at the top here. And as you can see, I have a custom background image. So a little later on in the series, when we actually start building the site, I will walk you through how I did this and how I set up the title text to be aligned with the image in a way that it kind of fits in. For now, though, I at least just wanted to point out that there are a number of settings here that I utilize in this site title and tagline area, checking these different boxes and setting an exposition here for the title and the tagline. So I'll be covering this once again a little later on when we actually set that up. But just in case you're going through this and wondering where that information is at, I still wanted to at least briefly mention it here for you. So I'm going to move on to the menus now. If you can see at the top of my site here, these are my menus that this is referencing. I've changed the colors of my menus beyond the default colors. But I've done this to kind of fit in with what my header image and the rest of my site's really going to be like in terms of a color theme. So you can use the same colors that I'm using here, or you can try to select your own. What I've done though is simply change the menu bar background. I'm using 273 C4D, and I have also changed the menu bar hover background. I'm using 6F ADDC. Now, in addition to this, there are a few other things that I have done on this page. A little further down, look for menu bar extras and then add search to menu bar. Click on the checkbox. This is going to add this search bar right here into the menu. And finally, down at the bottom under info bar, I hide the info bar. This is going to hide information up at the top of my pages right here. Things like the breadcrumb links and the date that it was posted on and who it was posted by, all that miscellaneous information that ultimately is not going to be that relevant on this type of website. So once you have all of those selected, we can continue on to Content Areas tab now. On this page, scroll down till you see Featured Image, and then select the Hide Featured Image on Pages checkbox. Then go to the comments section down below, and we are going to hide the separator above the comments and also hide the comment borders. This is simply going to clean up the area down at the bottom of our post where people can leave a reply. Otherwise, it's enclosed in all these borders and it ends up just not really fitting in with the design of the rest of the website. Now we can proceed on to post specifics. On this page, go down to post title area, and we are going to hide the comment bubble. This comment bubble is something that gets displayed in certain cases where it's showing a count of the number of comments that are on a particular post. I usually end up hiding these, at least in the beginning, and once a site gets popular and actually starts getting comments on it, you can come back in and re-enable this particular one. Directly below that, under navigation, we want to hide the top links for both of these. There are two different settings here that say hide top links. So I select both of these. All the way down at the bottom, the very last setting, allow comments for attachments. We are going to allow people to actually upload an image as a comment on this site. So this will be like if they visit the dog park, for example, and want to post a picture of their dog at this park. They can then upload it, and this would allow people to also comment on those images that people are uploading. So when you have completed all these different settings, click on the Save Settings button. One final thing that I've covered in previous lessons before, but still wanted to point out, in the Footer tab, you have this site copyright area. I usually click on Hide Powered By tag, and this will simply clean up the footer down here, the bottom of your site, and just make this say copyright the year and then link back to your homepage. Otherwise, it's going to link out to WordPress, and it's also going to link out to the Weaver 2 website as well. So now once you have your theme installed and all of these settings set up, we can then proceed on to some other aspects of getting this site set up. A couple of these things are going to be setting up your Google services with this website. This is something that I have also covered in previous training before. In Azon Masterclass 1, class number 10, Google and YouTube marketing, I talk about Google Analytics, Google Webmaster Tools, and also Google Plus, setting up the author profile on your site. All of these are things that I recommend to do for this city-based niche website that you're building. You can choose to do that now, or you could choose to come back at a later point in time and do it. Sometimes I wait until I get a couple of pages of content built on a site, and then I might go and set up all of that stuff. And other times I'll set it up from the very beginning at this particular point in time. Make sure, whatever you're doing there though, try to keep this site separate from your other sites in a way that if maybe you wanted to sell the site down the road or something, you want to make sure you can still transfer everything off of it. This is especially important with Google Analytics, also something that I have covered in that previous training lesson. So Google Analytics is google.com/analytics. You also have Google Webmaster Tools, google.com/webmasters/tools/home. These would be the main two, at least from the beginning, that I would recommend to get set up, your analytics and your Webmaster Tools, so you can kind of analyze what's going on with your site and the potential search traffic that's out there for it and the type of responses that you are getting, and you can also kind of analyze where your traffic's coming from and how it is functioning on your website before you even get your site completely built. And this can sometimes affect how you actually go about constructing your site or structuring it. If you find that something is working better than another thing, you might decide to put a little more focus on that than you had originally planned on doing. And things like that are completely okay. Go with what the data tells you. So now, the next thing I want to cover is plugin installation. One of the plugins that I would recommend for you to use is the Weaver 2 Theme Extras. This is also something that I have covered in previous training before. If you do not have this installed, you should see another link right here below Weaver 2 Admin with this little hashtag symbol beside it. And you can click on that to go to the Weaver 2 Theme Extras installation page. You will also usually see a notice at the top of Weaver 2 pages telling you to install this extra plugin. I use that particular plugin on the category pages of my site to customize the way things end up getting listed. So while it isn't something that I utilize immediately, it is something we will be utilizing very soon. So beyond the Weaver 2 theme extras, I want to point out a number of other plugins that I would recommend for use on this particular city-based niche site. One of them is going to be Google XML Sitemaps. This is something I have also covered in previous training, and actually something that you will need to get Google Webmaster Tools completely set up. This will generate your sitemap.xml file for you, which you can then submit to Google Webmaster Tools. Another plugin, and this is something that you've never heard me talk about before, is called Royal Pretty Photo. This is really important here. When you're searching for it, make sure you do not separate pretty and photo with a space. This is all one word, pretty photo. So if you go to add new and go up here, if you type in Royal Pretty Photo with spaces in between each word, you're actually not going to find this plugin. You have to take out that extra space there before you search, and then you will find this particular plugin. Now, I like this plugin and I utilize it on this site for all the images that I have there. Let me show you what I'm talking about. This is just one dog park page on this site. And as you can see, I have a lot of different images. And while they kind of go along with the content throughout my page, there might be some people that just come here and simply want to view my images. But to view them full size, you normally have to click on each of them. So this can be a little bit of a cumbersome and time-consuming process if you want to be able to view through all of the images, kind of like a gallery. So that is what this plugin does for us. You simply click on an image and it opens it up to a larger size. Then you have thumbnails of all the different images that are on that specific page, and people can easily browse through those images. They can also click on the arrows over on the sides to browse through them. If they find a particular image that maybe they want to zoom in on, up here in the corner there is a little expand the image button. And since I'm using really high quality images on my site, you can actually zoom in pretty far on them, and then you just have to use the scroll bars to actually be able to view the entire thing. And then you can still collapse it back down and close, and there's even things on here to like and tweet this, so this automatically connects into social media. And there's even a little slideshow play button, so it can just sit there and cycle through all the images, so you don't have to click on all of them. So it's a pretty neat little plugin that definitely fits in with what we are trying to achieve on this website. So now another plugin that I use, and something that I have used many times before and talked about in many training classes before this one, is SEO Ultimate. But instead of just quickly skipping over this, I wanted to pause on it for a minute and talk about something that has recently come to light. SEO Ultimate has apparently gone commercial with their plugin. And whether it has already happened or something that is happening in the near future, you most likely will not be able to get SEO Ultimate anymore by going to Add New and searching for it. So what I'm actually going to do is provide this plugin for you guys. Not the commercial version, but the open source version that was last published before they went commercial. As long as I provide this with the same open source access rights, then it's entirely okay to distribute that for you guys. Now with that said, SEO Ultimate is not necessarily something that I am going to be sticking on forever, since it has been merged over to a commercial system. You can also use all-in-one SEO. A lot of you may have used it before. I'm going to end up creating just a dedicated training class on all-in-one SEO for you guys to teach this plugin as a replacement plugin to SEO Ultimate, even though I'm still going to be providing this plugin for you. But since I have built my site on this, and many of you are used to using it already, I'm going to go ahead and stick with that for now. And then if you want to go to the all-in-one SEO plugin, then just simply keep an eye out for that additional training lesson in the near future. So with SEO Ultimate, you'll see a menu in the sidebar, SEO, after you have installed the plugin. There's one particular thing in this plugin that is really important for this kind of site that we're going to be building. Go to the Meta Robot Tags page and then go to the Default Values tab. Under this tab, you have a lot of different checkboxes available that allow you to prevent the indexing of specific areas of your website. Now this is really important for this type of website because we are going to be kind of modifying the default way that WordPress operates and customizing it to make our own unique website. And so we want to be able to control what search engines like Google are going to be able to access and index on this site to provide us with the best possible search rankings. So with that said, you want to check on the following checkboxes: administration backend pages, author pages, blog search pages, category archives, date-based archives, tag archives, and user login/registration pages. This is going to prevent the indexing of these 7 different types of pages, while still allowing the indexing of the other types of pages, and along with the default posts and normal pages that we'll be actually building on the site. So going back over to the plugins, another one that I recommend to install is called Shareaholic. Now there are actually a lot of different sharing plugins out there that you could decide to utilize. You don't have to use Shareaholic. If you're used to using one in particular, it's quite okay. This one though, you've probably seen this on other sites. It has this little sharing is caring and all these different sharing buttons down at the bottom of the post. So whether I'm on my home page or on one of my location pages, people always have an easy way that they can go about sharing this information on Facebook, for example. They click on this, they'll actually see a little preview of the information on my site on this particular page. So once you install Shareaholic, if you choose to use this particular plugin, there are a few things about it that I don't really care for when it is installed by default. So go to the settings page here for this plugin, and this is going to bring you to the Shareaholic App Manager. There are a number of different things that I would recommend to do on this page. Number one, remove all of these related and promoted content checkboxes. I believe this just sets it up with having the post checked, so uncheck that particular one. Down below, for the share buttons, I make sure that all four of these are checked for below content. This determines where our buttons are showing up, whether it's down below or up at the top, and you can kind of enable or disable it on different kinds of pages. Category pages, your index page would be your home page, and then your normal pages and your post. You can also click on this green Customize button here if you would like to make some adjustments to this plugin in terms of what buttons are being shown. You can see you can X out any one of these, at least the first ones. This one is a More Options button. If you click on this, it actually opens up a big list of a ton of other services that people could use if they don't want to use one of these main ones that are available here. So then you could also do things like rearrange if you want Facebook to be the first on the list, and so on and so forth. You can kind of sort them as desired. You can change the way they are laid out and displayed, different themes that are available. If you want to try some of these out, you can even change the text that shows up at the top if you would like. Now, one thing I want to point out. This More Options button here, if you click on it, like I was pointing out, you get the longer list of services. However, you are providing a link here to the Shareaholic website. However, this option here, Show More Options button, if you disable that, my page is likely cached here. You can get rid of this More Options button though. Oh, I know what I did wrong. I wasn't editing the correct one. This Customize button, note that there are different ones, and each of these operates independently. So if I wanted them to be sorted in a particular way or designed in a certain way, then I would need to change them for each individual page. So now, as you can see, my More Options button has disappeared, and I just have the normal sharing buttons available for me without having to provide that link out to Shareaholic. So any adjustments that you decide to make, you are going to have to go through here on each of these 4 different areas and make those same changes. So beyond that, there are a couple more things here. Edit Share Button Settings. I click on this, and there are 2 different things here that I want to pay attention to. Number 1, the message format up at the top. By default, it'll say via Shareaholic right here. I don't want to be promoting Shareaholic. I'm trying to promote my own website here, so I changed that to onlostdogs.com to reference my own site instead. The other thing that I do here is I am removing the checkbox for Show Post Sharing Dialog. After you share something, it's going to pop up this little window that'll just say, thanks for sharing. You can add follower buttons down below to get followers added on to your Facebook fan page, for example. That option can be a good option to use sometimes. However, there is also that Shareaholic link down in the bottom left-hand corner of that thanks for sharing window. So if you absolutely do not want that to show, then you will need to disable this Show Post Sharing Dialog. But if you want to be able to utilize those follow buttons, then you may need to have that enabled and deal with that Shareaholic link being in the bottom. With that said though, if you decide to use this, very important, there is going to be advertisements showing up in there put by Shareaholic. Post-share ads right here. You want to make sure you disable this feature. So move the toggle from the right to the left, and you can actually turn those ads off. Personally though, I just completely remove that dialog. But it can still be good to use for those follow buttons if you are heavily engaged with social media on this particular site. So last thing, down at the very bottom here, edit monetization settings. This is another place where Shareaholic is putting in advertisements for you. So you want to make sure you're disabling both of these, and you can even slide this little bar all the way back to the left just to be sure that you have everything turned off. And this will just disable all that extra advertising, so you simply end up with a clean sharing display here without all the extra fluff. So that's ultimately what I am going for with modifying these settings. So once you're finished, save your changes, and then you're good to go with that particular plugin. So then people will be able to go and share your content. This is going to be a little more important with this kind of website, more so than some of the other sites, especially from Azon Masterclass 1. This is going to be a site where people are likely to share the pages. These pages where we're reviewing the different locations, they are much more inclined to be one of those pages that somebody would actually say, hey, this is useful, let me share this with some friends of mine on Facebook or something. So finally, we want to install a plugin called Simple 301 Redirects. Now I'm going to explain what I use this plugin for here in just a few minutes. I want to go ahead and proceed on, though, to categories. If you go to Posts and Categories, you will reach this page. Obviously, something that I've covered before in previous training. The main thing we're looking to do here, though, is to create a category for our website to contain all of our places. You remember how we did our organization of our site topics previously. This is where we would then go to actually create the categories for that site organization. But now here's the important part I want to point out to you. Notice here that I have the default uncategorized category, and then I have just one category, Los Angeles dog parks and beaches. But if you look over here at my website, I have parks and beaches, I have park rules, and I have travel accessories. This travel accessories page does appear to be a category type of page, where I am listing a number of other different pages down below it. However, I have decided to use this as simply nothing but pages and not a post and category system. What I am using the post and category system for on this website are for the different places that I am reviewing. So this is my category page for my dog parks and beaches, and then these are my different posts that are on the site. So with that said, you need to create a category for the different places that you are going to review. This might be one category. It could possibly be more than one category, though, if you decided to cover maybe two closely relational types of places. I could have potentially split mine up into dog parks and dog beaches, but ultimately there's not a ton in the way of dog beaches in Los Angeles. It's more dog parks. So I have combined mine all into one. But if you have a circumstance where it makes sense to separate them, it is definitely okay to do that. If I were to expand my website and try to cover different dog-friendly places within the city of Los Angeles, then I would certainly come back here and create some more additional categories for those other types of places. So I might have Los Angeles dog groomers, Los Angeles dog trainers, etc. So when you're creating your category, number one, I'm using a long name here. This is keyword based that I am using for the name of my category, Los Angeles dog parks and beaches. However, the slug is not that entire string of words. If you see down here at the end, my slug for this one is just parks dash beaches. So whatever the main topic is, dog groomers, dog trainers, or something, you could either do groomers or you could just do dog groomers. That would be your slug. So you want to kind of shorten the slug beyond what your category name would be. And the category name would be longer and more specific, like using the city and the full keyword phrase that you're trying to target, essentially. Los Angeles Dog Parks and Beaches here. So I would put Los Angeles Dog Parks and Beaches up here, and down here I would just put parks-beaches. Add your new category, and then we can proceed on from there. So once we have this category created, this slug here then gets used as part of the URL to access that category. So you have the word category, and then you have your category slug, parks and beaches. Now, this would typically take you to the default category page for WordPress, that page that I really don't like to use because you don't have control over it. But if you notice, if I type in that address on my site, it actually removes the category and just takes me to parks-beaches. And this page is certainly not the default uncustomizable category page. This page, if I click on edit down at the bottom, you can see that this page is actually a WordPress page on my site and not a category page. I have a little bit of content at the top of this page, and then I'm using the Weaver 2 theme extras down below to actually output all of the different posts from this category. So I wanted to point this out to you because if you look at some of the automatically generated links from the posts that are on my site that are pointing back to the category page, you can see Los Angeles Dog Parks and Beaches here. And if you look down in the bottom left-hand corner of my screen, you can see lostdogs.com/category/parks-beaches. So typically this would take you to the category page on my site. So the question is, how did I get this turned into a normal customizable page on my site? And the answer actually lies in one of those plugins we installed, the Simple 301 Redirects plugin. If you go to Settings and then 301 Redirects, you can set up these redirects on this page. And a 301 redirect, this is actually the kind of redirect that you are going to want to use so that Google actually properly indexes the right page. So it doesn't think that you have two separate pages, the category page and then this page. It just thinks you have one page. And any links that go to that other category page, any search power will then get transferred on to this page instead. So this is the proper way of transferring something like that in terms of search rankings. There are other ways that you can kind of override category pages in WordPress, but I simply find this method to be one of the easiest, and it's also effective in terms of what I am looking to accomplish here. So you may only have one of these to create for these category pages, but it's possible you may have more. And even if you're only making one of them right now, a little further down the road, you may need to come back and create more because you want to expand your website. So with that said, we're to the point now where everything is kind of installed and set up so we can actually begin construction on our website. And that is going to lead us to the next AZON Masterclass, where we will actually begin construction on this site finally. We will start out by creating things like our home page with the customized HTML to go along with it, and also the other main pages of our site, like my category page here that I was just talking to you about, and other pages like my custom travel accessories page. And you might even have another type of page beyond that. My park rules page here, for example, is just a single standalone page where I'm talking about relevant information to my places. This is kind of my supporting content, if you will. So you may also have something like this where you have this extra supporting content. If you have this supporting content and any of it is city-based, if it is news or events, anything relational to that, you would also want to create that as a category and use post. Otherwise, you could use just standard pages. And that's kind of what I have done with my site here, because this is just going to be a standalone page. The information, while it does pertain to my Los Angeles dog parks, it's not really news or events or something of that nature. And that's really important to remember. Whether you're doing the news and events as supporting content in a separate area of your website, you have to make that set up as a category. And this is going to become more important later on when we're doing the marketing of our site, because we want to be able to submit a feed of our website. And the feed of your site, if you go to your domain name /feed, the information that shows up in this feed is actually going to be based on your post and your categories. It's not going to pull up all of the pages that you have created on your site. It's just going to pull up the post and the categories and the home page of your site. So that is important to keep in mind when you are going through and doing all this setup of your site, because we're going to want to submit that feed later on to some news websites. And so we want anything that is city-based or related in terms of places that we are visiting and reviewing, news, or different kinds of events. All of that stuff will need to be categories and posts, and then everything else on our site will be pages. And again, we will be proceeding on to actually start the construction of all this stuff in the next AZON Masterclass.